This case takes place in Hampshire, England, on the 17th of July, 2022. Shaye Groves was a 27-year-old woman who lived in Haven, a town in the south of England. She was a mother of one, although was not with the father. She had a boyfriend named Frankie Fitzgerald. Frankie was a 25-year-old man from Portsmouth, and he was a father too. Shaye was described as a rather manipulative woman. Her friends would later say that she would do whatever it took to get her own way, even if that meant blackmailing someone. On one occasion, she had even told Frankie and some of her friends that she had cancer. This was a lie, and had claimed this to garner sympathy and control over people. Shaye had somewhat of an obsession with Frankie, and the main reason for this was because of their bedroom life. Both Frankie and Shaye would engage in bondage, dominance, submission, and masochism. They would engage in something called knife play, where Frankie would hold blades to Shaye's throat. The two had a very off-and-on relationship. They were both extremely jealous and paranoid about each other cheating. The couple's relationship seemed to be coming to an end. Frankie in particular was becoming sick of Shaye's manipulative behaviour, and she was paranoid that he was going to go back to his ex-girlfriend, something that she often spoke about to her friends. The two were also known to drink heavily and take illegal substances, and on the 16th of July 2022, the two had consumed a fair amount. On the 17th of July 2022, the police received a rather strange call from a woman named Vicky. Vicky told the operators that she had just had a FaceTime conversation with a friend of hers named Shaye Groves. Vicky stated that the call began with the two of them speaking about their plans for the weekend, but during this call, Vicky overheard Shaye's housemate, Lauren White, say, "Are you going to tell her?" Shaye then explained that she had a really big secret and begged Vicky not to say anything to anyone. Confused, Vicky stayed on the FaceTime with Shaye as she began walking up the stairs and into her bedroom. She pointed the camera at the bed, showing Vicky the dead body of her boyfriend, Frankie. As she pointed the camera to Frankie's body, she said, "I've done him in," and then began to laugh. A pillow was covering Frankie's face and a number of bin bags were underneath his body. Vicky was deeply disturbed, but the situation was so strange and the camera wasn't close enough to see. She assumed it must have been some kind of sick prank. Vicky asked Shaye, "Are you having me on?" But then Shaye moved the camera closer and closer and showed a deep cut across Frankie's throat. Vicky would later say, "I don't think I really grasped what happened earlier. The gash was so deep. It was enormous." Shaye told Vicky that Frankie had forced himself upon her and that she was a victim of a non-consensual act. To prove this, Shaye sent 3 video clips as proof. This proof that Frankie had attacked Shaye will be explained later, as there is much more to the story. She then asked Vicky, "We're still friends, aren't we?" before ending the call. Following this call, Vicky immediately called the police, explained the FaceTime that she had just had with Shaye, and told them where she lived. Officers were dispatched to the house and were met with a strong smell of bleach. The initial interaction with the police was captured by an officer's body camera. I shall now play you that clip.
What's going on?
Sorry, the dogs.
No. Don't close the door. What's going on? What's going on?
With what?
Are you Shaye?
I am Shaye.
Right. I've had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
Okay.
So what's going on here?
No, that's,
a dog,
that's
is it?
my dogs, yeah.
Hello. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. The necessity for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay.
You can see from the footage that she seems to be oddly relaxed. Shaye goes on to tell the police that she didn't know what happened and said, "He's dead. He's in my room and it's a mess. The knife I used is in the sink." Shaye was arrested and charged with murder. Shaye's flatmate, Lauren White, was initially arrested on suspicion of murder too, but was released on bail. She was, however, charged for failing to give investigating police officers the pin to her mobile phone. A post-mortem was conducted on Frankie's body. They found that he had been stabbed 17 times to the front of the chest, twice to the other chest areas, and 3 times to the neck. He suffered multiple perforations to the heart and lungs, and had lost a catastrophic amount of blood. When the police examined Shaye's home, they discovered that she seemed to have an intense obsession with serial killers. But not in the usual way, where people just find them interesting and watch documentaries. She had a number of framed portraits of notorious killers, including Ted Bundy, Myra Hindley, the Moors murderers, and Jeffrey Dahmer, and had displayed these on her bedroom wall. The police asked Shaye to explain exactly what happened. She claimed that she was in fear for her life, that Frankie had attempted to hurt her, and she said she acted in self-defense. She said that the two had a very on and off relationship filled with arguments, and that the two would always film their bedroom activities. She claimed that she had footage of Frankie forcing himself on her and attacking her, and that because of this, she needed to defend herself. The police investigated these claims. Shaye had sent 3 videos to one of her friends which appeared to show Frankie forcing himself on her, but the police dug a little bit deeper into this. They found her claims to be false. The two had a very extreme sex life, and the footage always seemed to be on the cusp of unconsensual. However, Shaye would tell Frankie that she wanted it a certain way, and would then edit the videos in a way to seem like he had acted in a non-consensual manner. The police found the unedited video. In this video, the two talked about a safe word and had engaged in knife play and role play. When the videos were edited, it seemed that Frankie had done what Shaye had claimed, but she had obviously manipulated the situation. When confronted with this evidence, Shaye eventually admitted that she lied about this story, and the trial would begin in February of 2023. The prosecutor showed how Shaye had a deep fascination with serial killers and murder documentaries, and showed the many portraits on her wall, and went on to say, this meant that Shaye was familiar with what to do and say to try and engineer a situation where she could look like a victim, which of course completely unraveled in the face of the evidence collected from key witnesses, mobile phones, call data, and recordings. It also came out that Shaye had blackmailed another boyfriend with an intimate tape. She had threatened to show the video to his new girlfriend if he didn't do what she wanted, and what Shaye wanted was a lift into the town centre. In Shaye's eyes, this was enough of a reason to blackmail an ex-partner. Shaye had also attacked her housemate Lauren a number of times. On one occasion, she attacked her with a pair of nail clippers and split her head open. The court also heard how Shaye had lied about the reason for killing Frankie and presented evidence which proved that she was lying with the recordings. They also showed how she had begun to clean up the crime scene and try to get away with the murder. It was then time for Shaye to present her defense. She said that the two were extremely paranoid and claimed that on the night of the murder, they had both accused each other of talking to their ex-partners. This was backed up by text messages sent by the both of them. With these suspicions, the two swapped phones and checked each other's messages. Shaye claimed that while she was looking through Frankie's phone, she discovered messages from a 13-year-old girl. Shaye then said, "At that point, I called him some really horrible names, like the P word. Frankie then became really angry and his demeanour changed." Shaye went on to say, "You could see it in his eyes. He grabbed me by the throat and forcibly pushed my head towards the headboard. I couldn't breathe and I couldn't even scream. My eyes were blurry. I realized that he wasn't going to let go and I feared for my life. I reached out and grabbed an object on the bookcase and hit him in the throat." Shaye explained that she had a money box next to her bed and that she thought she had hit him with that, but claimed that she had accidentally picked up a knife by mistake and slashed his throat. Shaye continued to say. He rolled off and he stood up and slid down the wall really slowly. There was bubbling coming out of his neck when he stopped moving, and I was in shock. His chest wasn't moving, it was just the noise. When that happened, I realized that I had killed him. I tried to stop the bubbling and I put my hand there, but it didn't do anything. So I picked up the knife again and stabbed him in the heart. It was at this point that Shaye claimed to have panicked and made a call to her daughter's father, who allegedly told her to clean up the crime scene. Shaye then told Lauren that she wanted to bury the body in the garden or make it look like Frankie had taken his own life. Shaye and Lauren placed bin bags and shopping bags underneath his body and placed a pillow over his face. Shaye then warned her that she was an accomplice who had helped place bin bags underneath his body. It was backed up in court that Frankie did have a history of domestic violence. He had been convicted of harming his previous partner before meeting Shaye. The woman Shaye FaceTimed after the murder, Vicky, admitted that she and Shaye would often talk about ways that they could harm Frankie, such as arranging for people to beat him up. Vicky claimed that she didn't think Shaye was being serious and thought these conversations were a joke. The prosecution team highlighted that this showed some signs of premeditation. The prosecution rejected claims that the murder was a crime of passion and stated, "She stabbed her boyfriend in a jealous frenzy and then set about trying to cover for herself. Her actions were cold, callous, and calculated. She spun a web of lies, and everything she did was an attempt to further manipulate the situation and detract from taking any responsibility for her crime." The prosecution team also highlighted that there were no defensive injuries on Frankie's body, which shows that no struggle took place, suggesting strongly that she killed him in his sleep. It was also found that Frankie had blocked the girl who had messaged him prior to the murder. The judge also confirmed that the girl was 17 years old and not 13. Police also uncovered that Shaye had been sleeping with her former boyfriend, which was filmed. Frankie would go over to Shaye's house after, totally unaware that her ex had been over too. After Shaye and Frankie would finish being intimate, she would often accuse him of having no love for her and just using her for convenience. This was used to show how manipulative Shaye could be. The jury found Shaye guilty of murder and rejected her defense claims. The judge overseeing the case stated what they thought happened. They went into graphic detail about the things Frankie and Shaye would get up to in their bedroom and how violent and borderline non-consensual it could be. The judge said, "This was a crime of passion. You loved the man you killed, and you killed the man you loved. You are, as the Crown submitted, manipulative, jealous, and possessive. A crime of passion is not committed in cold blood. You realized your relationship with Frankie was ending, and you were losing your influence over him. You sensed that he was going to leave you for a less toxic girlfriend. You were planning for that already, considering resuming your relationship with your ex-partner. But then, you became furious on finding the messages between Frankie and the supposed 13-year-old girl. You lost your temper and acted upon your impulses. If you could not have Frankie, no one could. No other woman could have him if not you." The judge highlighted some mitigating factors. They didn't believe the murder was premeditated and also brought up the fact that Shaye had a troubled upbringing. She suffered from mental health problems from an early age and suffers from emotionally unstable personality disorder and with complex post-traumatic stress disorder from a previous relationship. Shaye was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 23 years. It said that she showed little to no remorse for what she had done to Frankie. I'm unsure if Shaye's housemate, Lauren White, was given a sentence. It's written in court documents that Lauren didn't have many friends and was used as a domestic servant by Shaye. She would make her get her clothes ready, put on her socks, make her food and cups of coffee. And as I said before, was violent towards her on a number of occasions. If you know anything about what happened to her, please feel free to comment below.